Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, hey everybody, it's another end of the week here at Giga Texas, and we just had the third quarter financial results meeting. There was a lot of information that was passed out to the public during that event, and there's a lot that has to do with Giga Texas, so I thought I would summarize just a few of them here in the intro so you get an idea of what to look forward to at Giga Texas as we end 2025 and we move into 2026. Now, first off, V14, the new version of full self-driving, is starting to be rolled out to a wider audience, and so far it's doing extremely well, but it does need a little bit of a polish, and then it will probably go out to the rest of the fleet. Now, why is that important for Giga Texas? And that's a very good question. Big reason is it has to do with the Robotaxi fleet. Now, in 22nd of June is when it opened up here in Austin. It's had 4 large service area changes, but since then there hasn't been a lot. Now, the reason why V14 is important is that they want to make sure that it's ready to go so that they can try to reduce the number of monitors in the vehicles and start scaling. Now, at the meeting, they said that by the end of this year, there may be 8 to 10 more metropolitan areas in 5 different states. That would be California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. And of course, the V14 full self-driving is going to play a big role. Now, in those new markets, it's going to be probably a few months of supervisors monitoring the vehicle for safety, but here at Austin, by the end of the year, they're looking at having it mostly unmonitored in the service area around this site. Also related to V14 and the development of full self-driving, we learned that at Cortex 1 at the south end of Giga Texas, they have now increased the number of NVIDIA H100 GPUs up to 81,000, and they have about 19,000 to go to get to their target of 100,000 of them in Cortex 1, and that is a great sign that they are continuing to build up that training capability to improve full self-driving as it continues to develop. We also know here we have Cortex 2, that new facility that is well under construction, and we'll continue to monitor that along with the electrical system upgrades to see how that is coming along. Of course, that is also going to play a big role with full self-driving and with the Optimus robot with the training. Now, another reason why V14 of FSD is important is that in that meeting, Elon Musk mentioned that they wanted to make sure that they were 100% on the path to unsupervised full self-driving, and with V14 they are now confident that they have that solution. That relates to production. Mentioned that they were kind of holding production down until they had that assurance. Now that they do, we will probably start seeing a lot more of production here at Giga Texas, most likely in the Model Y lines that could be used to help populate the Robotaxi fleet around the country in those new areas. And that'll be something that we can look forward to seeing in the outbound lot and coming out of the factory over the next several months. Now, another big piece of news has to do with the Cybercab production lines here at Giga Texas. Now, we've been seeing a lot of the equipment arriving, being installed. I've talked to some of the people that work here, and they're all excited about what's happening with that line and what the Cybercab is going to be like. Now, in the meeting, we learned a few pieces of information that are new. First off, initial production is scheduled to begin in the second quarter of 2026, and then it will ramp from there. So we have about anywhere between 5 and 8 more months of watching here at Giga Texas, seeing more equipment being installed, finding out how that production line assembly is coming along, the hiring of workers, and they've been doing a lot of that for the Cybercab line, probably some more prototypes and tests around the factory, and of course more of that crash testing that we've seen up at the crash test facility. So that's kind of an update of what to expect with Cybercab production and how it's going to be rolling out in 2026. The final piece of news has to do with Optimus Robot itself. Now, we have heard that they are going to be building them here at Giga Texas, but it seems like the plan has been delayed about a year or so. What we heard is that probably in the first quarter of 2026, we'll see the unveiling of the production capable V3 Optimus Robot, but they will set up production lines and be ready to begin production at the end of 2026. Now, what does that mean here at Giga Texas? I'm not really sure, but I'll continue to monitor and we'll see what kind of equipment is being delivered and installed, and if there's any other indications or information that we get from Tesla. So that's about it for the news that's particular to Giga Texas from what we got with the financial results meeting. It was a great meeting. Tesla is doing extremely well financially, and they are preparing themselves for a really monumental 2026 and beyond. And I'm pretty excited to be able to see at least a small part of that and share it with you here at Giga Texas. So without further ado, let's get into the drone, let's fly around and see what Giga Texas looks like on this Friday before the weekend. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are considering purchasing Starlink, I would recommend that you use my referral link at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Welcome to a little bit of a low cloud day here at Giga Texas. As you can tell, the outbound lot is quite full with vehicles, and we'll come back and get a closer look at that here in a little bit. I wanted to start on this southwest side with the material staging yard, with all these materials, some of the containers, workshops, and of course all of these transformers. Now what we're seeing is the transformers that are farther to the south are being loaded up on yard trucks and moved over here. It looks like they're consolidating all of the transformers together, and it looks like the reason why is that they're going to be using that location next to that tent and the structure, that white structure on the top of the screen, for some additional items, which we will see here momentarily. Now while we're flying over these workshops with the blue pipes and other segments, I did notice that they were assembling more workshops, this kind of dome-like structure using two of the containers as the bases, and this is being assembled right now. Next to it, you can see those white items. Those are kind of mobile power systems. They use power walls, and they have been using them around the site. I don't know if it's for testing or just to add more power where it is needed. But this is a good look at what is going on in this part of the site today. So we're going to go over the power lines and take a look at the transformers and some other items. Now at the bottom center of the screen, we see a yard truck. It looks like they're bringing pipe segments over to this part of the site. They're putting them on the ground for storage. And we also see these trucks lining up to pick up those transformers and to move them over to that consolidated place. Now on the left, we see a lot of these racking systems for castings. It looks like they are starting to use this location for these. And I don't know if this is overflow or if they're changing their process, but that's something to definitely watch. You can tell another transformer is being moved, and some of these are also heading off site. So whatever reason, there is a lot of changes with the transformers on this part of the site today, and a good view of the two locations right now where we've had transformers. Now at the bottom of the screen, we still have all of these items, but they are being consolidated, and part of the fence that was around here has been taken down. So I don't know if this is indicating it's going to be stored here for a much longer period of time, or if they're just making some additional space in that middle open section that you can tell. Now as we fly along the south side, we can tell more of the equipment and materials have been stockpiled here. A lot of those concrete vaults with the manhole covers have been moved to this location. More of them on that west side of that tent-like structure next to those transformers, and more of the crates Looks like robotic assemblers here in the silver next to the green, and just some other materials that are associated with production. We do see more of the wooden crates in this middle section and some of those recycling bins where they have been opening up those bins of the materials to install in the factory. And of course, more of the steel corrugated pipe and some additional pipes have been brought here since my previous video. So this part of the site seems like it's definitely picking up a lot of business and a lot of changes. So that'll be something worth monitoring. The bottom of the screen center here, you can tell that there is some earthwork being done. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but it looks like maybe there's a roadway or some access next to this south fence of the warehouse on wheels. The caisson construction and the surface material has been continuing to be changed over the last several flights. We can see some gravel has been brought in. It looks like it may be being spread around this site. See some of those large pipe-like segments next to the caisson being prepared for installation, and much of the tunnel boring machine processing equipment has been moved away from this location. We do see some materials along this perimeter fence coming up to the cyber tunnel, but what really caught my eye, and I wanted to give you a closer view, is the amount of vehicles that are here in the outbound lot. And it also looks like there are many of the Model Y standards throughout this location. And there's also some premium versions kind of mixed in, but they definitely have a lot of these standards. And as I mentioned on my previous video, it looks almost like they do one day with standards and then one day with premiums. And I'm not sure if that's exactly the way that they do it, but it may kind of suggest what their supply and logistics base is like to support those production lines. Not a lot of activity on the test track. The blue trailers is where they do that noise, vibration, and harshness testing. And that actually looked like there was some work going on there today. That green wash out rack and wash system was not being used today. Of course, we do have a lot of the vehicles here stored as well. Do see this Tesla semi in the upper left, and it looks like maybe direct delivery of Cybertrucks is going to be happening later today, and that's why they're all kind of arranged here next to the end of line and that direct delivery center. And as I kind of maneuver around, this is a great look at where this is going to take place and that test track where kids can drive those small Cybertrucks. So I'm going to bring the drone up. We're going to cross over the highway. We'll take a look at what's going on the west side of the factory. Looks like they may be pumping out something in these open kind of vaults on the ground, as you can tell. We got that pump truck next to it and a lot of workers. We do see some recycling of the 4680 can segments in those blue bins as well. Now, as we pass along the employee entrance on the left of the screen, we do notice that more equipment is being delivered and moved up to that loading platform here at this part of the factory. Now, this is where the structural packs are manufactured on the third floor, and that is where all of this equipment is being moved. You can see the yard truck on the right bringing in that equipment. Most of this is coming in from that southwest material staging yard near where that white tent was located. And once it gets over here, the rapidly put onto this loading mechanism, and the crane brings it up, the door opens, they put it down, and it moves right in for their assembly. So pretty smooth and rapid operation. We have seen quite a bit of this coming to this part of the factory over the last several months. So great to see that they continue to build out their battery production and supply capabilities here at Giga Texas. No real construction or production here today because it is a Friday and they're back to their normal Monday through Friday schedule. We do see some work with landscaping and some pipes on the left and the additions of bollards here separating the road to the west main entrance. This is probably a safety item that has been talked about for some time, and now they're doing it. We do see the mobile supercharger next to the solar roof demonstration house next to those flag poles. There is water being put onto the seed grass kind of matting. We did see those purple pipes being installed in my last video, and that's usually for irrigation, so that's what is happening there. As we come down towards the southwest corner of the factory, I'll fight a little bit of the sun just to bring the drone down and lower to show you that there's still not a lot of activity here with deliveries or anything. That doorway is still open. They do not have a way of closing that off, which kind of surprises me considering how much time has passed. On the caisson section here on the site, more of the excavation where you see these beams, the walls units, and the spreader bars to keep it from collapsing in. And it looks like it's at the full depth of the caisson itself, and more excavation work is underway right now. And as I kind of maneuver the drone around, we'll take a look inside and you can get a good sense of what is going on in there. And it looks like they're assembling these smaller tank-like items. They're doing some grinding, maybe some welding, and we'll see how this connects to that excavation that they're doing and the tunnel that goes under the road over to the larger caisson on the west side of the road. But as I pull away, this shows you what all this site looks like, the construction area here on the southwest corner of the main site and the factory as well. I'm going to kind of maneuver around, go back down to the river road on the south side, and just get a quick look at the trench work that is underway. This is one of the deeper, larger ones with that blue trench box. We see the auger drill bits nearby, and it's a pretty deep pit that they've been working on, and it continues with trenches that have been filled in along the south side of the river road under where these auger drill bits are located, and then to this location where we see some concrete pipe segments being installed and those trench boxes. Speaking of which, more trench boxes on the surface here next to where this work is underway. And then it crosses underneath River Road to this work site next to the chiller plant. And we'll get a closer view here to kind of get an idea of what this site appears like. There is a pump truck. Looks like they are pumping out something with those smaller trench boxes. And of course, this device has been lowering in pipe segments into that trench. As we look around with the lighting, you can see that extra added room in behind the glass, plus some of the new mezzanine and columns. Of course, this is that area where they have continued to add H100 NVIDIA GPUs, and they've reached to 81,000 now within Cortex 2. And from what I understand, another 19,000 yet to go to hit their 100,000 mark for Cortex 1 here in the south part of the factory. Great view also of all that trench work on both sides of River Road and looking over the cyber pond. So I'm going to reposition the drone and we'll take a look at some of the work with the intersection with Robotic Avenue and that large clearing. A great look at how the River Road extension is being widened, the trenches that they've had through that area with conduit, and it's being filled back in. Of course, the intersection with Robotic Avenue in the middle of the screen, and coming up on the right-hand side of the screen now to the center is this large clearing that continues to have more and more trees removed. And this is most likely related to extending River Road through this area, but it could also be for some new construction. And I have not found a permit yet that describes what may be happening in this location. But as you can tell, there is a continued excavation, removal of trees at the bottom of the screen here. I'll kind of reposition the drone so you can get a better look with the lighting of that work that's underway. But definitely they continue to clear out the trees and the shrubs to extend this open area. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to kind of pull away and come over towards the north just so you can see how close this clearing is to some of the other workshops and material staging locations on this side of the site. And then below on the right is that recycle center. So this is actually almost joined up with this recycling center, and maybe that gives us a clue of what this section might be. But with this kind of overall view, and I'll sort of maneuver around, just give you a good idea of the size. This is a quite large area that they are clearing. And my guess is that those trees in the upper left next to that recycle yard are all going to be removed here very soon. And with this view, great context of where we are on the site with the cathode building, die shop, and Cortex 2 in the upper right of the screen. The material staging yard here continues to have more of those pipe segments, workshops, containers, and some of the broken up crates for materials that have been moved inside the factory. As we pass by these trailers and the top of the parking garage, I wanted to come back and give you a view from the south all the way to the north along the east side of the building so you can get a sense of some of the materials that continue to be brought in. Now here we have these white wrapped items on these pallets, and as I pan the drone around, we'll see these kind of platforms, or I don't know, almost like racking systems nearby. There are also some yellow robots and red and white production equipment, and then more of it along the side of the building. The fact that we know that Cybercab now is looking for initial production in the second quarter of 2026, it probably suggests that there is still a few more months of installation of equipment inside the third floor and part of the second floor of this part of the factory to prepare that Cybercab production line. So it is consistent, I think, with what Tesla said. And again, I don't know if they're going to be starting production at the beginning or the end of the second quarter. So we have maybe 5 to 8 more months before we start seeing big production of Cybercab. And part of the reason is the equipment that we just saw that is continuing to be arrive and be installed. Now, next to these towers for the power lines, that temporary platform was removed. Here's a view inside with the lighting of some of the scaffolding. Looks like they're going to be doing maybe a temporary plastic covering to close up that part of the factory, which means that it may be a while before we see the window and the concrete panel replaced, but that'll be something I watch. The baghouse filtration plant looks pretty operational now with the perimeter fencing and just the way it appears with no construction, and that's been that way for a while. The melt center shows the original furnace loading system on the left and the new one on the right. And this is what the progress appears like here today. Some more of the materials on the ground that will be assembled to finish that loader when it's completed. But as I pull away, you can kind of compare the new one on the right and the old one, or the original one, on the left. And there's a lot of old alloy wheels and some other materials that will be used to melt down and get the aluminum for the alloy that is needed for the casting. So that work at that melt center continues pretty consistently and is growing in capability. I'm going to relocate the drone to this new trailer section, and this is where all the temporary offices plus the orientation and welcome center currently for Giga Texas. We do see the displays of Cybertrucks and the original Roadster, plus some of the bales of hay, and they now have pumpkins out by the vehicle. So getting ready for Halloween next week. The tent-like structure, main steel beams have now been installed over this artificial grass. So that's coming along quickly. And these are the old trailers. Some of them have been now moved off-site. The others are being prepared for moving. And soon all of these will be gone, and that will allow more of that construction we see in the upper right to continue into that location. As we pass by the Megapack 2, I did notice that there's some additional excavation work going on here next to these 4 concrete vaults at the bottom center of the screen. In addition to that, and the wooden crates that have been delivered, we get a good sense of what is going on here with the tunnel that connects the 2 vaults. And it just looks like it's prepared for conduit or for the cabling, but I don't see that yet. More vaults being prepared for installation on the south side of these 3 control trailers. And I thought I would kind of give it a context here of where we are located at the south of the switchyard and then over to Cortex 2 with all of the conduit and trenching and the vaults that are being installed to connect the power over to Cortex 2. And these, what you see here, are 2 of eventually 3 large banks of conduit that will connect into the building. So the amount of electricity coming into Cortex 2 is going to be extreme. And these images really give you a good sense of just how much of the electrical conduit and the connections over to the electrical switchyard there truly are here on the west side of Cortex. And I'll pull away to the north so we'll get a little bit more view of the work that's continuing. Not only is it for conduit and for the power, but they're also doing some of those excavations for the drain lines coming off of the roof. Because the size of the roof is so large, they're going to get high quantities of water when it rains heavily. I'm going to maneuver back over towards the electrical switchyard over these vaults and the conduit with the workers. Gives you a kind of sense of scale. These are pretty large conduits they're installing. And then, of course, some of the materials in the bottom left for the switchyard expansion. It's looking much more finished up now with the perimeter fence around it, many of the concrete slabs, the footings, some of the steel that's being added, also some equipment. We see rebar cages at the bottom of the screen being assembled for installation, and looks like many more of the footings have had concrete poured here on the north side. There's still going to be some more excavation or pier making to support those footings, but it's definitely coming on quickly. And of course, much of the steel items that are for the superstructure being supported here on the north side, some of which are being moved probably over for installation. I'm going to pull away over towards the east, kind of give you a good overall view of the work between the switchyard and Cortex 2, plus the north material staging yard with some of those pipe segments, many of which we've seen already being installed inside the south part of the factory or the plant. Here is where the lake is, or the pond, and we can see where they are connecting it through this location, the depression, underneath kind of this drive road kind of area with the concrete pipes that go along the east side of Cortex 2, and that'll be all for drainage. As I continue to maneuver the drone over those excavations and that concrete pipe, I wanted to show you that the yellow moisture barrier is all installed here on this part of the ground slab. This allows it to have the rebar, if necessary, and the concrete poured. That will give it a good supporting base for that concrete. And also suggests that we are very close to having the interior slab completed throughout the entire length of the building. And that's a great sign. This is where a lot of the dirt and other materials are being stored temporarily, kind of between the cathode plant and the Cortex 2. Also see more of those concrete pipe segments and vaults. And as I bring the drone back in, I'm going to show you some of the work to prepare some of these rebar cages. These are probably related to the ground slab that we see with the yellow on the right hand side of the screen. Did notice that they are filling in this opening now. So this is one of 2 on the east side that originally looked like it was going to be receiving doors, but now are being filled in. Perhaps it was just so that they could maneuver machinery and equipment inside during this phase of construction. This is where more of those concrete pipe segments are being added to connect into this vault. And it looks like this is going to continue underneath where the Keystone trailer is and equipment over to where we see some additional excavation work and the auger at work today. And here's a close-in view of what is going on. You can see the auger is drilling several holes together in this one section. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing here. As one of my patrons pointed out, the dirt here is quite loose, so that will be, definitely something to watch. We just saw that other new large section of the wall that had been filled in. As I kind of fly around the south side, tell that much of this is starting to take final shape. And what it will eventually look like when completed. There is more earthwork going on in this southwest corner, and it looks like there's some pipes that have been installed into that graded area very close to the wall. And this is a great view of what that appears like. So more things to kind of keep track of, and we'll see how it develops over time. I'm going to fly to the east along the south side of the die shop and the battery cathode plant. We'll reposition to take a look at what's going on at the crash testing facility. As we know, with Cybercab production being in the second quarter, there's going to be a lot of work to finalize testing, crash testing, and development. And we see that going on here with the Cybercabs at the crash testing facility. We see two under the blue and black wrapping on the right-hand side of the screen. We can see a Cybercab hatch in that crate, along with other Cybercab parts. We see three more Cybercabs under the cover. And as I maneuver the drone around, if we look into the north part of the crash testing facility, we'll see several of the Cybercabs being prepared for or being inspected after some crash testing. So here's a good look through this part of the site of what that work appears like. And if you compare back to the Cybertruck, when we saw a lot of the crash testing happening, that was about 2 to 3 months before we saw big amounts of production starting. So if that is in fact the same, and there's no guarantee that it is, but if that is the same, then probably right after the new year is when we might start seeing a bunch of the Cybercab early production tests showing up around the site. So that'll be something to definitely watch for. And that'll be it for all of the views of Giga Texas today, plus all the updates from the financial results meeting. I hope that you found everything useful. And as always, thank you for watching. Take care.